listen to reason? Will you open your eyes? It's a wonder what you'll find with an open mind. You may be surprised. Yeah, gotta get away from this illusion. For the sake of the world, this delusion. It's gotta go.
Hey everybody, it is the Atheist Experience. I'm your host, Russell Glasser, and with me today is Jeff D.
Hi, everybody.
Today actually is normally Matt's day, but he was actually away somewhere debating alongside JT Eberhard, and I hear that it went pretty well. Looking forward to the details of that, but he is recovering today. So I'm here. Today is Sunday, April 15th, 2012. We are a live public access atheist television show based in Austin, Texas, and dedicated to promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We are also available through live streaming video at ustream.tv. The official Atheist Experience website is www.atheist-experience.com, and the ACA website is atheist-community.org. And you can provide feedback by commenting on the official show blog at freethoughtblogs.com/AXP or email us at tv@atheist-community.org. You can also check out our other regular podcasts, The Nonprofits and Godless Bitches. And if you enjoyed the show today, you can come join us for dinner once again at our favorite place, El Arroyo, 1624 West 5th Street here in Austin, Texas. How are you doing today, Jeff?
I'm good. How are you, Russell?
I am well. You want to jump straight to calls? Or
I guess. Do you have anything else to talk about?
Well, I
Should we
mean,
just
some
go to news
minor
stories and
things.
stuff?
We got in Tennessee, they're now allowing the discussion of creationism theory in its classrooms, which should be a short discussion since there is no creationism theory.
Which
Creationism conjecture.
Which classes is it going to be discussed in? Because there's some where it's perfectly okay.
Well, let's see. The controversial bill known as the Monkey Bill by those who said it attacked teaching evolution became law on Tuesday. The Republican governor said he allowed the legislation encouraging classroom debate about evolution to become law, despite his misgivings, because he thinks it will not significantly affect the state's science curriculum. So I think that's your answer, science.
Okay.
Science classes, surprise.
Yeah, doesn't belong in science.
Nope,
It's
not at all.
Science.
It received bipartisan support, which proves that Democrats in Tennessee suck. All right, how about some calls?
All right.
John in Burlington, Vermont.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Pretty good. Thanks for helping me test the phones earlier.
Yeah, well, I got to listen to the Game of Thrones intro. And
Oh, yeah.
It made it worthwhile.
Cool. What's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to first just throw out a bit of a claim here, rather explosive one, but I want to tell you what my position is, and then have you guys tell me, first of all, if you agree with me, and then what do you think should or should not be done about this problem. Is that okay?
That's a lot of build-up. Go for it.
All right. I think that we have a problem within the atheist community of Islamophobia. Now, when I say Islamophobia, I don't mean people that are fearful of radical Islam. I don't mean people that are fearful of Muslims that are out there that want to kill Americans and impose Sharia law on the entire world. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people that have a very generalized disdain and dislike of Muslims as people. And this, of course, since 9/11 has been something that's not contained to the atheist community.
Right.
But unfortunately, I've seen it infiltrate into the atheist community as well. And I don't think that we necessarily do as good enough of a job as atheists of calling people out on it.
Like Pat Condell, for instance?
He was actually the first example I was going to bring up.
I figure he's the first example of that on everybody's list, and
Right.
I kind of agree with you. What do you think, Jeff?
I'm a little soft on Pat Condell because I think I don't think everything he says is quite right, but I think most of the time he restricts himself to talking about the way that to complaining about the way that governments in Europe treat Islam give it special treatment, and he objects to that. And I don't think, I mean, I'm against religion getting special treatment anywhere, any religion, so I'm kind of on the same page with him about that. Now, does he get a little upset about it? Yeah, I mean, like I'm saying, I'm not 100% in his camp, but I think he is interpreted as being more shrill than he actually is.
Well, I mean, having watched him, I think I've seen him like get really up in arms and angry about allowing Muslim women to wear veils. You know, I certainly don't want any sort of situation where they're required to wear veils, but Pat Condell, I think, is oftentimes really guilty of attacking the symptoms of something. And we do occasionally get sort of shriller than Pat Condell email saying that, you know, we have to stop the Muslims before they take over the entire, you know, all of Europe and the United States and institute Sharia law here. And I kind of tend to agree, not that the atheist community so much is specifically Islamophobic, but that there's a segment of the population which atheism intersects, which tends to be overblown about atheism.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
just clarify what I meant.
I think all religions are equally without grounding in reality, but also it's, you know, I'm more concerned about the fundamentalists of all stripes than I am about, you know, about what particular nonsense they subscribe to.
Right. Well, you brought up first of all, I'll clarify what I meant when I was talking about the problem that exists within the atheist community. It's a very loud minority. I don't think it's a very significant number of atheists percentage-wise, but I think that they kind of hog up a huge proportion of the dialogue about a lot of these issues. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you brought up this issue of fundamentalists of all stripes. I mean, I totally agree with you. I think that fundamentalism from any religion is an extreme threat. And in the United States, you know, we have people promoting these theories of what's called stealth jihad, i.e. the idea that Muslims are trying to take over the United States.
Right. I believe Barack Obama is one of them, right?
Actually has specifically referenced that in his video about stopping the mosque at Ground Zero. He said the beginning of the description of the video says, "Stop the stealth jihad," and then he starts linking to these right-wing anti-Muslim websites. But, you know, compared to the millions and millions of evangelicals and Christians we have in this country who are trying to break down the wall between church and state, it's just ridiculous to talk about, you know, the Sharia takeover. And yet I've seen atheists ardently and fervently try to push this conspiracy theory, and it worries me when I see it.
Okay.
Yeah. We're going to get accused on this call by the same overreactors that you're talking about of being soft on Islam, and shut up to those people. Actually, I guess I don't have a lot else to say. I agree with you that that it is incorrect to be overly panicky about Islam in general. Those folks have a right to their crazy beliefs, same as everyone else, until the point that it starts to actually hurt people. And in a practical sense, people are hurt by, most of the time, they're hurt by fundamentalist Islam here in the United States, far less than by fundamentalist Christianity. And I mean, in Europe, there's more of a Muslim presence, so the numbers are skewed slightly differently. But, yeah.
Yeah. Once again, I'll take the slightly soft on Pat Condell stance and point out that if you listen to his videos, he is very, very careful all the time to make it clear that he is critical of Islam and not of Muslims. And so what you said earlier about atheists who have got this Muslimophobia, I don't think that is an accurate criticism of Pat Condell. I think he is wrong on some issues of fact, but I do not think that he is a blanket, anybody with the brown skin that comes from that part of the world is a bad person. That would not be accurate.
Well, the thing that I would say with regard to Pat Condell, I think certainly there are people who are much further down that end of the spectrum. I don't think he necessarily hates anybody just because he's a Muslim, or they're a Muslim, but I do think that he's one of these people that sort of views Muslims on average as being different or, less reliable, less trustworthy. There's somebody that we need to view as a threat to secularism in a way that we don't members of other faiths.
I think
that,
accusation
basically said that,
John.
Yeah.
And I think your accusation is completely off base.
Well, in the video regarding the Round Zero mosque, he's essentially assigning collective blame. Now, I know you guys on the show have had to deal with that, and you shot it down, which I think was good. But Pat Condell was one of the loudest voices within the atheist community, essentially saying that Muslims as a whole bear some level of responsibility to 9/11.
I think you are mischaracterizing his actual view.
All right. Well, and
we're not going to resolve this on the show, but in the guy's defense,
we'll pass some.
No, he's not always right about everything. Yes, he gets very heated, but no, I do not think it is accurate to characterize him as somebody who is prejudiced against Muslims. I think he is a guy who is very concerned about the influence of that particular religion, and does everything he says about it accurate? No. But I don't think leaping from that to therefore he is indicative of some kind of big problem in atheism. I don't think that's accurate.
Okay,
well, it's not a huge portion of the community that believes this, but I do think that the number of them that do tend to kind of drown out a lot of rational discussion. I guess I'll just leave it at that.
All right, thanks for calling.
Yeah, thank you.
Brent in Woodbridge, Virginia.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I'm a fan of the show. I was wanting to call in and see if you guys had seen this Washington Post article. They reported on there's some reanalysis of the Viking voyage data, this old data from '76, and they think that, in a nutshell, what they think is that what they had concluded originally to be geological activity might actually be biological based on the complexity of it, of the activity.
We have not heard this news story.
No. Where
did you come across this news?
Washington Post.
Washington Post reported it. I was, otherwise I would have, shrugged it off, really, but, it's the Washington Post, you kind of got to pay attention, so it got my attention. But,
well, sounds fascinating. We have no information on that, so I don't know that we can have a discussion.
Oh, okay. Well, what it got me thinking about was, honestly, I was thinking, okay, let's say we take a microscope up. I'm saying if it's not Mars or, maybe it's one of the moons of Jupiter or something like that in the future, if we did discover, like, bacteria, or something like that on, from soil samples, what do you think that's going to do to theists? I wonder how they'll react to that.
May I?
What has that got to do with Vikings? Go ahead.
No, the Viking lander on Mars.
Oh,
Right.
Religious people will react to that the same way they have always reacted to everything new without history. Some of them will claim that it is a evil plot by the evil one to trick us all into believing lies. Some will try to spin it and claim that their God is responsible. Some will go back in their religious teachings and find some poetic metaphor and claim that that was proof that the writers of the old religious books knew that all along. They will react all kinds of different ways, other than, in most cases, they will not react by saying, "Oh, shucks, darn! Well, that proves that these teachings that we have latched hold onto were full of shit."
Yeah, and of course, the more widely accepted those findings become, the more they will gravitate towards number 3, where the people who say that it's an abomination and must be lies will die off, and then everybody will grow up just knowing that there's life on other planets, and they'll say, "Oh, look, this passage right here is where it was predicted in the Bible."
Yeah.
That's what always happens.
Well, yeah, that's unfortunate. I think you guys got that pegged right, probably, but that is unfortunate. But at any rate, that's all. I just wanted to get your take on that.
There's not going to be some magic bullet scientific discovery that puts it all to rest. What there may be is a slow accumulation of knowledge, or a fast accumulation of knowledge, which rapidly brings into question a lot of different religious beliefs and results in people starting to wake up and maybe be a little skeptical about what they've been taught by their religion. That may happen.
Hopefully.
Yep.
We'll have to see.
All right, thanks for the call.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.
And so I don't feel quite as dumb, I will note that the call screener note did actually say, "How do you feel about the Washington Post article about Vikings?" So, not my fault.
That's the things, there were Vikings on Mars now?
Yeah, they play football, right? Let's see. Shmir in Orlando, Florida.
Hi.
Hi. Did I get your name right?
It's Shmir.
Oh, that's what yeah, okay.
Okay. Hey, I'm a Buddhist, and I don't really agree with the Abrahamic tradition-based religions, obviously, because they don't make sense in any case or any form. But I lean towards Buddhism because it doesn't really go against any moralities, or which moralities are relative, but I mean, it doesn't really have any contradictions. It does have the one point where atheists may argue that it's got an experience called nirvana, and that becomes a subjective, non-falsifiable claim. But the method of getting to this point of nirvana, or the experience of it, is meditation. And meditation has been shown to just show physical benefits, if not any spiritual or out there claims. But it definitely has some physical benefits, and it's often told by physicians, you're told to meditate a few minutes a day, it'll help you calm your mind, blah, blah, blah.
So can we just meditate and just to get the physical benefits and disregard all the metaphysical mumbo-jumbo that Buddhism also says?
You could, but what I was leaning against was, rather than, okay, we obviously know we can't, because I have this agnostic view, and we can't really claim there is no God, we can't really claim there is a God. It's all like, no one has the evidence, obviously.
Well,
but give the benefit of the doubt to the people who claim there might be some, not a God, but some extra thing out there, or something out there, or whatever it is they want to claim. And looking at every religion and siphoning them out in a somewhat reasonable manner. I've come to Buddhism, and it seems that there are some points, as I said, nirvana, which is subjective. It becomes a shady area, like, oh, what is the experience? How do you know you've had it? Like, there's a lot of questions that do arise, obviously. But what I was trying to say is that why wouldn't an atheist or agnostic, having seen all these religions on Earth, and since we are in this reality that we see, or think this is the reality, or whatever you want to say, Why don't they pursue the most reasonable or the most sensible claim out there of something extraordinary? You know what I mean?
Because the most reasonable claim of something extraordinary is still not worthy of belief if it can't be established that that claim is accurate.
Right. Why
It's not just a competition between all the different crazy things that religions say, and whichever one is the least crazy, that's the one we should all latch onto. They could all be completely wrong.
Yes, that's true, and I mean, I agree with that, but you could say that since meditation does offer just the physical benefits, let's forget the spiritual and all the other stuff. Since it just offers only the physical benefits, we could just practice meditation, and if something like nirvana were to occur, if it were to occur, I'm not saying we'll go looking for it, but if it were to occur, then I guess we'd see something or experience something new, but if not, then hey,
how do you get from one to another? I mean, if we grant that meditation has some sort of physical benefits, how does that in any way increase the chance that nirvana is real? I mean, why would we, having accepted meditation, make the leap to this other completely unrelated and unevidenced thing?
It is unevidenced. I'm not going to argue that it's in any way evidenced.
Okay.
But if you look at each religion or each sect or cult or something, and if you, what I'm trying to say is if you try and filter out everything that's made that's an extraordinary claim or something that's out there, and if you filter them all through a sift, so to say, like a somewhat reasonable sift, obviously there's no evidence here, but, and you sift them through, Buddhism does seem to make the most sense, although it does have its flaws. But also, not only that, it doesn't have major conflictions with science, for example. Like, you don't see Buddhists trying to keep evolution out of classrooms. You don't see Buddhists trying to blow themselves up in buildings. You don't see...
Yeah, but they're not in power right now. I mean, historically, they've gone and, like, burned other religions' idols. I mean, not that that's anything against science, but it's not like Buddhism has never... inspired any irrational widespread movements. It's just that at the moment it's not as popular around these parts.
No, I'm sure it has caused some wars and whatever you might call it, but the ideology or the actual philosophy embedded in just the rational stuff or just the things you can think through, it doesn't have any fundamental concepts such as, say, Islam, which says if you do not worship Allah, then you won't go to heaven or whatever it is. Or Christianity, if you're not a Christian or you're not a Jew, it doesn't have any, like, if, then you won't get this, or if this, then you're going to get punished. It's not so uncivilized, for lack of a better word.
I hate to turn this right back around on you, but you're a Buddhist and you're talking to us, and what I'm hearing you telling us is because Buddhism, according to you, is unevidenced but less bad than all the other ones. Therefore, that is a point in Buddhism's favor, and that's not rational. If whatever the claims are of Buddhism, whichever ones can be evidenced, can be demonstrated to be accurate, those are the ones worth believing. And the rest of it isn't. It doesn't matter how nice it has been recently compared to other religions. It doesn't matter how nice its teachings may be or may not be compared to other religions. What matters is what bits of it can be shown to be actually, factual.
Yeah, and
that's the issue. And if you can't demonstrate that the teachings of Buddhism as a whole are accurate, an accurate representation of the way reality actually is, then we're not interested. We're just not.
It's not as if we have to take or leave all... I mean, we have to accept or reject every single detail about a religion as a package deal. I mean, Christians like to point to the fact that some of the places that are described in the Bible actually are real places that existed back then as proof that the entire Bible should be taken as something that's actually true, and that the fact that there was a ancient Rome or whatever proves that we ought to believe the walking on water and talking snakes stuff.
Right.
And the fact is, we're free to look at every individual claim and say, did this happen? Well, there's evidence for that. Is meditation beneficial? Well, there are studies. Is there a nirvana? No reason to think that. So, as a whole, Buddhism, just like many other religions, makes some claims which can be verified and some which can't or can be demonstrated to be wrong. So there's no reason to just, quote, accept Buddhism as a blanket statement.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks for calling.
Bye.
Bobby in Los Angeles.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
So we spoke last week about the mind-independent concept. Do you remember?
Did you call, did I pick you up after the show was over?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I specifically told you to call back this week.
Why don't you recap for the audience? See that.
Why don't you recap, Bobby?
Okay, I'll recap. So I was saying that we cannot deny the existence of something that doesn't exist, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to talk about it. And then I mentioned that God is a concept that exists in our minds. And then you said that God exists only in our minds. So that's where we left off.
Okay.
Are you okay with the idea that God exists but only in our minds as a concept?
No, because then you have to prove that. You're stating that. You're making that claim. So you have to prove that it exists only in our minds. And that God is not a mind-independent concept.
But we're not making a claim. I was only asking what I thought from your characterization of the discussion, that was what you were proposing. There is a God, and what the God is a concept in our minds. Is that not what you are proposing?
Yes,
that is what you are proposing.
And
okay,
imagination is more important than knowledge. And
no, you lost me there.
Yeah, no.
You lost me there. And I'm an artist, and I design role-playing games for a living. Imagination is hugely important to me, but it's not more important than actually knowing stuff.
Okay, well, that could be argued more, but just focusing back on the things that we discussed as far as God and a concept, reason was brought up, and I mentioned that reason is your God. And another thing that they said was reason was a tool.
Yeah.
Right.
But if reason is a tool, then you have to prove that that there is no watchmaker that left his tools around for you to borrow without his permission.
No, we don't. If you are claiming that there was a watchmaker who left his tools around, you are making the claim. The burden of proof falls on whoever is positing the existence of a thing.
So
and skepticism. Just a moment, Bobby.
As opposed to the existence of the concept of God. How do these things differ?
Just a moment.
And if God is just a concept,
you've got to put him on hold.
As good
Bobby,
as a
let him need to listen to Jeff.
Let me finish. I'm sorry. Bobby.
Yes. Sorry.
If you are positing the existence of a watchmaker, then it's the reason why the burden of proof falls on the party who claims to know that something exists is because when you claim to know that something exists, you're claiming that you have good reason to make that claim, and so it's your job to tell everybody else what those reasons are, why it is that you believe, and it's your job to, if anybody else is going to believe, it's your job to explain why. Skepticism is just people hearing those explanations, those arguments, and going, I'm not convinced, and here's why. It's not the skeptic's job to prove that a claim you made is false. It's your job to prove that it's true, okay?
Well, a lot of the claims that were made last week are basically what I'm trying to go at.
Nobody watching has seen last week.
Just pick one, tell us what the claim was, and we'll talk about it.
The claim, one of your claims, actually, but the other guy it's not there right now. He said that reason is a tool. And
Okay.
that's why I said, if he says that reason is a tool and not your God, then you have to prove that there is no watchmaker left his tools around for you not to borrow without his permission.
I think you're misunderstanding the use
metaphor.
of the word tool.
Yeah, tool in that is a metaphor.
Reason is not a screwdriver specifically.
It's a process of thinking about things that leads to results that tend to be accurate.
Okay, so
And nobody
you're
had to
basically
invent
saying
that.
there's like this orderliness, like everything is in order, and that's where reason comes from. And if you follow this order of the universe, then you're gonna reason yourself out of the fact that there's a God. Is that right?
There is enough order in the universe that to support the process of reason and make it, work. And we know this because we use reason and it does work, right? We don't find that the universe.
But why does reason work?
Just a moment.
What is the nature of reason? What is the nature of the truth about math and logic? Look, the only way I can prove to you, and
Bobby,
we can
Bobby,
disagree.
can you stop?
Yeah.
Okay. Look, you are the one claiming that reason has to be a thing that had somebody that invented it. We don't make that claim. So we do not have to show you then the maker of reason, because we don't think it's any such thing. Do you think there was a maker of reason? If you do, then it's your job to show that it exists.
And does that
the
thing...
most incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it's comprehensible, and if everything
Says
is
who?
orderly, then we're the most religious
maybe.
people of all, because we believe that everything is going to be in order in the universe. And
No, we have
everything is
experience
not
that
in order in
demonstrates
the
that
universe,
it's-
though. Obviously, that's not true.
Okay. Well, for me, it is. I mean, the only way I'm granted we're not going to reach a new higher level of understanding or reality here, but the only thing that we differ on, and the only thing that is the difference between atheist and me, is the fact that I believe that the concept of God is mind independent, and the only way I can prove that to you is if I take all human beings out of this planet, replace them with new intelligent beings, and if they come up with the same concept of God, then truly the concept of God must be mind independent. Other things
you're not
like
gonna
spirit
do that.
Are just observations. I seriously don't think that people have just created a conspiracy or convention to come up and create things like concepts like spirit and so on and so forth, just so they can dominate mankind's existence. I think atheism.
Do you believe that they can make up concepts, Bobby? Do you believe they can make up concepts like nirvana?
Nirvana is trying to give another convention or definition of something that is in everything, in all time.
Yeah, well, the guy before you said that Christianity made no sense and that Buddhism was the most logical religion. Do you think that the concept of nirvana is something real?
That they put them on paper, and it's just people talking. That's all it is.
Okay, so people make stuff up. We agree on that, right?
Yes.
So what is it that would lead me to believe that this God idea that you have is not just something that's made up? I mean, a minute ago you were trying to tell me that God is independent of minds, but I mean, obviously people can come up with some pretty complicated metaphysical ideas like nirvana. Why isn't your God in the same category? Do you think that your God is orderly? I'm not at that point. I cannot discuss what I think God is on my views if we don't agree on the fact that you would accept that God is it exists, that God exists. I don't say anything about God.
There won't be any point of you arguing at that.
So you can't convince me that God exists unless I agree with you conditionally that God exists. Is that what you're saying?
No, Not conditional, unconditional.
Oh, okay. So I have to completely accept your claim that God exists,
Yeah,
and then you'll have proven it to me.
And we're not going to do that just cause, Bobby. We agree that things exist when we see evidence that they exist. I just want to take a moment to go back to your thought experiment of eliminating all human beings from Earth and replacing them with other thinking beings and seeing if they come up with God again. Ain't going to work, because God is just an idea. You know, people independently come up with similar ideas all the darn time. And if certain theories about the neurological roots of religion are true, then there are things that then God is a concept that springs from the misfiring of certain parts of the brain, and people misinterpret the experiences that they are having, and God is then an explanation for things that they're experiencing that they don't really understand what they are. And that could happen with your brand new, new race of intelligent beings living on the Earth just as easily as it could have happened with us. That wouldn't work. What you got to do to prove that a God exists is prove that the God exists, Bobby.
A brain malfunction. But
prove that God exists. Can you?
Then you're saying that God exists and it's just a brain malfunction. That's all you're saying.
I said that is a theory that has been floated, and there is research being done on that idea. I don't know if that is exactly what it is, but it makes more sense than there is a cosmic, invisible force out there that that interacts with us, but without leaving any trace that could be used to actually prove its existence. Okay.
Look,
that's the alternative.
This is the problem with atheism, is it's taking away a lot of dreams and hopes of people, and for a lot of people, that's all that's left.
I'm sorry that what we're saying makes you sad, Bobby.
I mean,
but that's we're talking about what's actually true here.
It's taking the human experience for granted, and religion also.
We're not. Whoa! Wait a minute. I want to respond to that.
And all that. So both of these are for me, bad things.
Bobby.
Okay.
Where do you get off claiming that we disregard the human experience? We don't disregard the human experience. We just care what the human experience actually is. And you don't. You would rather take what, for your first impression of the human experience and run with that in some direction that makes you happy. We don't do that. We care what's actually going on.
But what you do is you take away they call it a salvation for a reason. They call it a salvation because once you know in your conviction is good enough. That's why I said imagination is more powerful than knowledge, because your conviction or your intention.
No, it's not. Imagine a bridge across a chasm and then actually construct one with an understanding of mechanics. Okay? One of them is going to actually work. Imagination is a wonderful thing. I make my living off of imagination, Bobby. I make my living off of imagination. I'm an artist, and I design role-playing games. Imagination is hugely important, but it's different from reality and knowledge. And it doesn't do the same job, and it's not better.
But reality and knowledge is not everything. It's not God is sitting on a throne right in front of you. It's not like that. It's the tools that you left behind, the reason, the math and logic and truth about those things. Like 2 + 2 = 4. Take everybody out of this planet. Is 2 + 2 equal 4 still going to be true and still going to remain true?
So
it's going to remain true. It's mind independent.
Could God decide that from now on 2 + 2 is not 4? Could he change that?
Like I said, I'm not going to answer that question because you haven't.
We're done with Bobby.
You want me to accept a bunch of claims that you have, and then you just don't actually have any claims when we start getting close to them? Okay. Robert in Brooklyn.
Hey, good evening, gentlemen. How you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Well, I don't understand you guys and your compulsive need for evidence and facts.
Yeah. We're unreasonable that way.
When we could just instead we could just make stuff up and imagine it and be happy.
Islamophobia.
Yeah.
I think that until we see a reformative push by a majority of moderate Muslims, a certain amount of Islamophobia is justified. At least if you can like mix it with education, because I live in a community very mixed ethnically and religiously, and Muslims work a day just like everyone else.
Sure.
But I think we still have to, watch our backs, and the price of freedom is vigilance. There's that. But I'd like to get now. I've been an atheist for decades, an open atheist, and
And you're gone.
They got to him.
All right. Just to comment on that.
Yeah.
I don't think Islamophobia is justified, because phobias are, by their very definition, irrational. Okay. If his point was that why we do know that there are some extremists out there that want to do bad things, yes, that does not mean that anybody that you meet happens to be one of them. He was talking about a movement within Islam that's more, I forget the terms that he used, but more moderate. I happened to have an opportunity to have an email exchange with a guy from a Muslim temple in New York City, where they were self-professed liberal Muslims. And we went back and forth a little bit, and we were not going to ever agree on the religious stuff, right, the supernatural stuff. But as far as me being left with any concern about those people at all, no, absolutely was not concerned about those people. They have a right to believe their silly supernatural stuff if they want to.
Yeah, and I remember...
phobia is a mistake. Phobia would leave me being afraid of those people just because the label Muslim applies to them.
I remember actually looking up, like, near the 1-year anniversary of 9/11, people were saying, well, Muslims have to get together and denounce the acts of the terrorists. So I Googled that, and I found that indeed a whole bunch of individual Muslim groups were issuing statements saying, we completely denounce the acts of the terrorists, and we think it's a terrible thing, and you shouldn't take lives in the name of our religion and stuff like that. But the problem you're working with here is that as much as Christianity or Islam would like to be sort of an overarching system of discovering truth, it's not. It's a bunch of people who have all basically made up stuff, like the last caller was doing, which in their own minds is what they think about the world. And some of them are terrorists, and some of them are liberal Muslims who just want to be going on with their lives. And if you want to find Muslims condemning the acts of extremists, you will find no shortage of that. And I'm not really sure how a religion as a whole can take one unified position on anything when there is no actual unification within religion. Would you say that's a fair statement?
Yeah.
Yeah. Angeli in Belmont.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
The reason I'm calling is I saw the last two shows, and one of them talked about 13 billion years in Hindu cosmology.
Okay.
And there was another one where Tracy talked about how nice Hare Krishna people are, and I wanted to just bring some Hindu perspective into this.
Okay.
The Hindus and the Hare Krishnas, majority of them, they believe in Vedic creationism. And many of them are fanatics, not just in India, but here. They have a lot of websites in English which are geared towards the American Hindus and Hare Krishnas. And I get a little frustrated with the fascination that people have with the Eastern religions. They seem to think it's very sophisticated. And if you look at their website, they use a lot of quantum jargon. They make references to Einstein and Feynman and so on. And this, Matt talked about that there was, at least he heard somewhere that Hindu cosmology thinks that the universe is 13 billion years old. And I just want to say that there isn't anywhere in Hindu cosmology that the number of 13 billion years appear. They think that Brahma, the God who created all there is, the Brahman, the Brahma is up for a day, which is 4.32 billion years long, and he sleeps for another 4.32 billion years. The 4.32 billion years of creation is followed by the 4.32 billion years of destruction when he sleeps. And the cycle is going to go on for 311 trillion years.
So in other words,
we are in the year 155th trillionth year at the moment.
Well, that's complete
there isn't
bullshit.
anything really. I mean, I think they like to point that the 4.32 billion years, that's really close to the age of the Earth, which is 4.5. And the 13, if you add the entire life cycle of Brahma, which is going to be 8.64 billion years, which they claim is close to 13.7 billion years, although it doesn't even remotely describe the same concept.
Angeli, thank you very much for the correction. I think, we had the previous caller raising a concern about atheists being inappropriately cautious about Islam, and I think there is a concern there. It's a valid concern. It may not be going on as much as he thinks, but at the other end of the scale, there's religions that haven't given us any trouble, particularly in the living memory of anybody talking about it today, and a tendency maybe to be a little less critical.
Slack.
Yeah, cut a little more slack to those religions. That may be what we're seeing. But thank you for the correction.
I do think that here in the West we have sort of a tendency to sort of give some muddle-headed romanticism to Eastern religions that people don't really understand, in much the same way that that New Agers romanticize quantum mechanics and really don't understand it.
Right, absolutely.
Yes. Well, the Hare Krishna movement here in America is very much a big proponent of the ID movement. And they have written books in conjunction with each other with Michael Behe and Dembski, which is called Hidden Archaeology. It sort of talks about the Hindu cosmology. The Hare Krishna people, they supported the ID effort to put stickers in Cobb County, Georgia, the biology books. They wrote amicus. They write amicus briefs for wherever they can, supporting the ideas.
Yeah,
so
okay.
it's not very serious, but it's it shouldn't be taken lightly, I think.
Thank you very much.
I agree with you. I don't know who said that. Given the power, if they had more power, they will feel more comfortable doing more things. I mean, I know I have Hare Krishna friends. One thing I don't like is that they are very anti-vax. They won't get any vaccinations. They won't take their children to doctors, when they can. I know that since you are in Texas, there was a big case in, I think, 2001, 2002, where there were hundreds of children who brought this case that the Hare Krishna boarding schools, and the accusations range from sexual abuse to wrongful death due to medical neglect. And they actually won the case, and millions of dollars are still owed to people who were affected by this, the kids living in the boarding schools.
Angeli, do you know of any web resources that compile criticisms of Hare Krishnas and Hinduism that we might pass on to our viewers?
Nothing that will have just like an overarching thing, but there's just a lot of things. I mean, there's a K-tube, which is a Krishna tube, a lot of Hindu creationism videos on there.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thanks for calling.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, definitely a very interesting perspective. And I think any time you give unconditional trust to any group, no matter what they're preaching. If they haven't earned that trust, you're going to get abuse.
Or
guaranteed.
not preaching. It counts for atheists too.
Right. Yes. Wow, it's a really Eastern religion-oriented show, and we got Nishan in Thailand calling about the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism.
Hi, I'm very happy to be able to talk to you, and you guys are great. I like your show.
Thank you.
Okay. What I got to say is, I am as atheist as you can be, as Richard Dawkins is.
Okay, that's pretty atheist.
Okay, I'm at number 6.9 in his scale. So
right.
So just that established.
Got it.
I want to direct you to the Kalami Sutta in Buddhism, if you know that.
No.
Okay. Favorably or unfavorably?
Kalama Sutta.
That's not the sex one, I know that.
Okay.
Sounds like it.
It's not the sex one, yes. It is when the Buddha said, when people asked him, there were a lot of teachers teaching all sorts of religions and ideas and everything. What should I choose? I mean, anything could be right. Exactly the same questions that we might ask people who believe in God and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And his answer was, this was 2,500 years ago written, his answer was, do not believe in oral history, do not believe in tradition, do not believe in news sources, do not believe in scriptures, do not believe in suppositional reasoning, do not believe in philosophical dogma, do not believe in common sense, strange word, do not believe in one's own opinion, do not believe in experts, and number 10, do not believe in even myself. Believe if that idea, you try it by yourself and you feel it works for you, it's skillful, it's blameless, it's praiseworthy, and it's conducive to happiness, and it is practiced by the wise, believe it and practice it. So this is just an idea on how to reason and how to learn new things written in Buddhism.
You came so close to stuff I could agree with.
There is the other thing I want to ask you guys. Is the Four Noble Truths. That's the part of my question. Now, in the Four Noble Truths...
Wait, hold on. What was the first thing you wanted to ask us? Because we haven't been asked anything yet.
About the Four Noble... first, I wanted to ask you about the Four Noble Truths. Is that the first Noble Truth in Buddhism is the existence of suffering. Do you guys accept that there is suffering in the universe or in everybody's life?
No, what?
Wait, you said the second thing you wanted to ask us, and you didn't ask us the first thing yet. You listed these 10 things, and then you said what Buddha said, and then you said the other thing you want to ask us is, and you went off on the Four Noble Truths. We haven't had a chance to talk about whatever it was that was the first thing you wanted to ask us.
Okay, well,
I think we wanted to respond.
The main thing I wanted to ask you, first, those 10 things I gave you were how to reason and how to accept anything according to Buddhism. Just wanted to show you that.
Okay.
And then,
can we comment?
Ask you about the Four Noble Truths,
Stop.
Which the first...
Stop.
Okay.
Not and then. We'd like to respond to the first thing first.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think we don't agree that those 10 things describe a way to think rationally.
I mean, they were pretty good for a while. There was a lot of stuff which is just basic skeptical principles. But he wound up saying basically that if you go out and experience stuff and then wind up feeling that it's true,
and it works for you,
then it is true, and that actually is a trap that I think people can fall into.
That's pretty much just what Bobby was saying earlier.
Exactly.
And we didn't agree with him either. The idea that that what you feel is somehow more important. What you feel and imagine is, if that works for you, that's somehow more important than what the facts are. Because nowhere in those 10 things does it say, do believe, if there's a weight of compelling evidence that the thing is actually true. Right? At no point did it step outside personal opinion and personal feelings and say, truth is this thing that exists independent of how you feel about it.
Yes, it's more talking about the mind. I will get back to you on that one. It also remember it also says
devote more of the show to this.
No, actually, we're running out of time. You should email us.
Or praiseworthy.
No, seriously, we're running out of time.
Yeah, sorry, we hate to hang up on a guy from calling all the way from Thailand, but
yeah.
Okay.
But let's see. We have less than 5 minutes left.
We may have to stop, excusing not talking about other religions besides Christianity and Islam because the other religions aren't giving us a hard time.
Right.
That may be changing.
Oh, shoot. Okay, Wayne in New Jersey.
Hey, guys, you there?
Hi. You
Yes,
got
we are.
very little time left, so what's up?
Okay, I'll try to cut to the chase then. First of all, I love your show. I think it's great what you guys are doing. One thing I don't know if this point was ever made, it probably was, but I never noticed it. These people that are calling in with alleged proof that God exists, I think are making a very bad waste of time. Because
True.
If someone living 200 years ago couldn't prove that a radio wave existed, so we could do it now, but you need some kind of device like a radio.
Right, because now we have evidence, so it's different.
So I think that we don't even have the means to prove everything that we can see or that we suspect is out there. For example, dark force. We see its effects on things, but we don't know what it is just yet.
Sure, but the time to start believing something, at this
point in time, no one's going to get on the phone and come up with this smoking gun. This is the proof that God exists. You can't do it at this point if God, in fact, did exist.
So in what way are they justified?
I'm an atheist in the respect that I don't believe in the boogeyman or... sorry about that.
So in what way are they justified in jumping to that conclusion if they don't have any evidence
absolutely
that they can
not.
present?
Okay. Absolutely not. I think that we all agree that something existed eternally. I think that some people...
No, we don't agree with that.
We don't know what that is, and rather than jumping to a conclusion and saying it was God, we need to wait and see what the evidence suggests, and at this time there's no evidence that it's
we don't assume,
intelligent.
We do not assume that something existed eternally. It might have, but there is no need to assume that.
Oh, well, that's the whole argument, I guess, where it comes down to something could not have come from nothing. I believe that maybe time doesn't really exist. Time is an effect of the physical universe on things. Time exists in the 3D realm that we're in now. But time isn't absolute. Time changes. Einstein kind of showed that, too, that frame of reference and things like that.
Right.
Time can be different in certain contexts.
All right.
We're out of time.
Thanks for your call.
Any last words?
I find it interesting that he mentioned, people believing in radio waves 100 years ago when it would have been silly because they didn't have any way to prove it.
And people
That's why I find it silly to even be talking about religions that claim that their proof is something we've only just discovered now.
Right.
Then why on earth did you believe it all those other years? Bye.
Bye.